It's time for Frank Walks. Frank talks while Frank walks. It's time for Frank Walks.
All right, well, it's another episode of Frank Walks, of course, hydrated by BODYARMOR. You know, we got the sport water. You can get it anywhere. You can go to 7-Eleven. You can get it at Walmart or your local grocery store. And this is Don Greca, ESPN New York Radio. He does the midday show. And, well, he's a good hockey guy.
Afternoon drive.
Afternoon drive?
Yes.
Afternoon drive.
Worked hard to get to that point, so yeah.
Well, the show's transitioned now. It's a new show now.
Yeah, Michael's doing 1 to 3. So we brought in Alan Hahn, Nick Guy, covered the Islanders back in the day for Newsday, and Peter's still on the show, Peter Rosenberg. So a little bit of a transition. I worked with Michael for 22 years, so it was kind of strange working with other people on that show. So we started 10 to 1 way back in 2002, and then in 2005 we went to Afternoon Drive. So working with Michael for a long time, but it's nice. Get my name on the show, get a little bit more freedom.
Yeah.
It's cool, but I do miss Michael. I owe him a lot, and it was great working with him for so long. Gave me the opportunity. I was just an update guy when I started doing it, and then next thing you know, I'm co-hosting with him. So
now the show, you were now on 88. You were it's going to be like the Mets leading now all year.
Yeah, it's cool. You know, growing up a Met fan, it's pretty awesome. You know, it was when I worked at the Fan, it was like cool. You know, doing IDs during Met games, and Bob Murphy, being on the same air as me because I loved Bob Murphy. I grew up wanting to be Bob Murphy. So then we lost that for a while, and then having him back is pretty awesome. We started on 1050, then we went to 98.7, then back to 1050, now on 880, and then we get the Mets. So it's pretty cool leading into a Met game. Howie Rose, another one of my idols. Pretty awesome to be on the same station as the Mets.
And now the Mets look like they have a clue what they're doing.
Listen, Juan Soto's great, but I think the biggest acquisition we're going to look back on is getting David Stearns, to actually get somebody that knows what he's doing, that can budget the money, bring in the right players. I think that's the biggest thing. You bring in Cohen with the money, but you still need somebody that knows what they're doing baseball-wise. I can finally trust a Mets general manager again. So you got the money, you got the right guy, I think, anyway. I
think they're handling Pete Alonso correctly. If he was really that in demand, he would have been swooped up. And the fact that he can't get a contract elsewhere, and that they're almost like trying to pressure the Mets into giving a contract, shows me just the weak position that Scott Boras and Alonso's camp is in. And they're the ones that turned down the 7-year contract extension.
Yeah, no, they're handling it exactly the way you should handle it, but I still want to see a way to keep him.
I want Pete Alonso to return.
But I'm not overpaying it. And I think that's what people think is like, oh, Steve Cohen should give him $50 million. He's got all this money. That's not the way you do business. And listen, he's limited defensively. He's limited as far as speed. He's a big home run hitter, and listen, you need that in this day and age, but you're also not paying north of $30 million for it. So
and that bat speed it seems to be declining.
It's not going to age well. It's not going to age well.
No, I think he's a guy that if you give him a 5-year contract, by year 3 you're going to be regretting it.
Right, but I'd like to see, but they're handling it the right way. If you get them at their price, that's what good general managers do, is get guys at the money that they want.
I don't want to see him leave, but this is what you have to do sometimes. This is the hard decisions you have to make.
Well, like you said, let's see who gives them money. San Francisco gives them, or Toronto gives them $35 million. God bless them. But they give them 20, then I might say, well, wait a minute, I think we could have done that for 20, but let's wait it out. It's still only January, as you can tell by the weather.
Wow, this weather is terrible. Now, it's hockey season.
Yeah. The Devils lost your goaltender.
How out?
It didn't look good. It looked like it was a knee. Listen, Allen's a good goaltender, but I'm a little dubious about him being the guy, so hopefully it's not too serious.
Markstrom, this has been a terrible stretch for the Devils. Since Christmas, they have not played well.
Well, not scoring, and I don't know why. You got Heishier, you got Hughes, you got Mercer, you got Brad. What's going on?
They were playing so good before the Christmas break. They had that one game after Christmas against the Hurricanes, and they had the back-to-back. And They didn't play poorly in the second game of the back-to-back, but then they went to California, and they went out west, and they just like lost their game, lost their way. They started playing this sluggish brand of just like slow down hockey, where they just give the puck away. And Markstrom's the only reason they didn't go winless during this stretch.
I'll go this way. I would love to have been in the room with you when they gave up that goal in San Jose with like 30 seconds to go. Because those are the kill. When listen, back in the day when you lose in overtime and you didn't get a point, it didn't really matter if you gave up a goal late, gave up a goal in overtime. But now with these points that are on the line, and you're 24 seconds away from a point and don't get any, that was killer. That was the worst.
It basically was they were trying to clear the puck and it went off the ref.
Yeah, it was bad. But I watched the Devils, and I think Jack Hughes is amazing. Listen, I grew up a Devil fan, so they're always known for the defensemen and goaltending, and like their best forward is Patrick Elias, going back in the day, Pat Verbeek, John McClain. Hughes is going to be better than all of them, but I think he freelances too much. He turns the puck over way too much. You got to love him, but it look like he's trying too hard.
He tries to get too fancy sometimes, especially in overtime. He makes mistakes in overtime. They lost that game to the Rangers a couple weeks ago because of that.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like there's enough structure. And, I think Sheldon Keefe's a good coach, but it wasn't like he did anything in Toronto other than win one series. But I'd like to see a little bit more structure. Freelancing with the puck, I just think too many turnovers cost way too many mistakes. The goaltending's better. And now if Markstrom's going to be out, man, and you're going to be relying on Allen to get you through, they're going to have to protect the puck a lot better than they have.
The only thing that's good is this Four Nations break that's coming up. If they could, if it's a month, which I think might be best case scenario the way it looked, they could probably get to the Four Nations.
You into the Four Nations?
I'm not into the Four Nations.
It's something.
When I first heard it, I thought it was going to be like a 3-game playoff where 2 teams play each other and then they have a championship.
Yeah.
But they're doing a round robin 10-day thing. I don't know if I like that.
Look, they're going back into the Olympics. All right. They wanted to get a World Cup going, but they couldn't get it done in time. So they wanted to kind of put this together. But all this stuff, whether it's the Olympics, whether it's Four Nations, I love hockey. I don't mind regular season hockey. I'm a little disappointed sometimes at the fact that we're not going to play. Just there's going to be 18 days or whatever with no regular season hockey. It's going to piss me off.
We're just going to watch the Four Nations and
it's something. I guess.
And Nico Hischier, who's probably a player who would be an all-star this year. He doesn't have a country in the Four Nations.
Ovechkin doesn't have a country, right? Shesterkin doesn't have a country. That's what's just weird about it, right?
Ovechkin's about to break Wayne Gretzky's record. The Four Nations tournament, and I know we got the whole thing with Russia and all that stuff. Russia's just a mess.
Yeah.
But the fact that we're doing a Four Nations tournament and there's no Ovechkin makes it.
It's odd. It's odd to have something that's going to have a lot of attention on it, and some of your best players aren't going to be playing it. Kind of weird, but like you said, don't worry about it, man. If it means that Markstrom gets to rest up for a month and gets back healthy, coming back, that's what you do, man.
I sit in Section 105 at the Prudential Center, so it happened right in front of me. So it was like, ugh.
You like the Rock?
I do. It's a nice, small arena, good, compact for hockey.
I miss the Meadowlands just because I just love driving to the game, but I get it. They're so much better off there. I think the Nets should have stayed there, honestly.
Yes, I do.
I don't get the whole Brooklyn. Nobody cares about them. It's a Knick town.
That's why eventually I just said I can't be a Nets fan anymore, and said just go to Knicks. It's just Brooklyn. That was a bad mistake.
No, they thought it was cachet, Brooklyn. But they're all Knick fans there, number one. Number two, they're drawn just the same as they did if they stayed in Newark. They would have had the whole state to themselves. It was stupid. That team's a mess.
Yeah, it's a bad franchise. They keep trying to go for the brass ring, and they just keep blowing it.
Okay, well, these super teams, and they went for it twice. They did it with Pierce and with the Boston deal, and then making the deal here to bring in KD. Just build a friggin' franchise, man. There's no, whether it's tanking like Philly has or trying to go for the super team, everybody wants a shortcut. You know what? you look at the way the Devils kind of built things up. They took their draft picks, they took their time, and now hopefully it's kind of coming together.
It was 10 years. It was 10 long years.
I know it's long, but you know what? When you try to quick fix, man, Frank, what happens? Like then the Nets twice set themselves back, right? Philadelphia, the stupid, trust the process. Well, where's the process going? It just got absolutely destroyed by Denver the other night. Gave 144 points, but it's Philly. We don't care about Philly.
Joel Embiid, He wishes that the NBA was like the NFL, where he only played one game a week and he had 2 bye weeks.
Right. You work harder than he does now.
Oh, God.
This 20-minute walk is more than Embiid has done in like a month.
Well, Joel Embiid, this is 484 consecutive days for me. Joel Embiid can't fathom doing something 484 days in a row.
Listen, we're doing a 20-minute walk. If it was Embiid, he'd negotiate it down to 5.
And of course, you're doing a lot with the Rangers. You do some games for the Rangers. What has gone wrong this year with them?
You know what? You just look at last year. 28 come from behind victories, 12 in the third period. That sometimes can be fool's gold. Like you get all these come from behind wins. That meant that you were behind. That meant you weren't playing well. And then you got a power play goal that sparked your team. And the power play has been way too inconsistent. The goaltending up until recently, way too inconsistent. You know, in the NHL, there's not that much difference between the best team in the league and the 20th team in the league. So if a couple of things don't go your way, you look at the Devils last year, right? They weren't that much different than they were the year before when they went to the second round. But you get a couple of key injuries, a couple of guys don't live up to expectations.
Vitek Vanacek had a spectacular season 2 years ago. They had a 13-game winning streak, and that set the whole stage for the whole season.
But it's like baseball, right? When you win a bunch of one-run games, then the next year, all of a sudden, there's like 10 don't go your way, and you go from winning your division and not making the playoffs. Like, that's what's happened to the Rangers, but they're starting to play a little better. Shesterkin's been great. They're getting goals now from Lafreniere and Zibanejad and Kreider, so I think they're going to be okay.
Teams in trouble? The Bruins.
You don't lose 2 centers like they did a couple of years ago. You lose Krejci, right? You lose Bergeron. That's tough to lose. The hockey's built up the middle: centers, defensemen, goaltenders. And you lose 2 centers. Now, what happened? Pasternak, right? Last year, everything went in. This year, not the same. And now they're not scoring as many goals. So I'm with you. I think Boston is in real trouble. When I look at the teams that will fall out, I like Ottawa. I like Ottawa a lot. I think Montreal's playing some really good hockey. Detroit, for a while there. Maybe, I think the Rangers are better than all those teams, but Boston's the one team where I say, you know what? I'm with you, man. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs.
They're old, and they're a team that I think that's going to that's now where the Blackhawks were about 5 years ago, where they have Taves and Kane, and they have to make the hard decision to trade them or just be bad.
How are you?
Yes, after Markstrom got hurt yesterday, the Devils showed the most spark they showed in a month.
I know that.
The Bruins just didn't look like they couldn't have any answer on the ice yesterday.
That team's in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble.
I mean, we got the Penguins. They're old.
Well, the Penguins, they screwed up, man. They had a chance to let Letang go, let Malkin go, and maybe trade Crosby. I know it sounds ridiculous, but you know what? They doubled down. You know what the Penguins did? They did the same thing the Giants did with Eli.
Yeah.
Let's get another Super Bowl out of Eli. Let's get another cup out of Crosby. Let's re-sign Letang. Let's re-sign Malkin. Let's go trade for Carlson and bring in his big contract. They're no better than they were before, and now they're in cap hell. They lose Gensel.
The Giants are a mess. Especially, by the way, I love your rant on Evan Neal last year.
Oh, that was fun to do.
I mean, this guy's talking about hamburger flippers. And he can't block anybody.
Anybody. That's what these players, I don't get these players that come here. They think it's college, right? Everybody's going to root for them no matter what. Dude, you were a 5th overall pick in the draft, right? You have not been able to block anybody, and you're gonna talk about people that are paying friggin' PSLs and $50 to park, hamburger flippers. Jesus, hamburger flippers can't afford to go to a Giant game, for God's sakes. I was so mad. Because I don't want to be talked down to. Why do you think the NFL makes the money they make? Why do you think that these contracts are guaranteed around sports? Is because we pay money for jerseys, for tickets, for packages on television, and you talk down to us? They deserved to be booed that game. They lost that game 40-0. That was the game right in Dallas.
Oh, yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Come on, man. They're lucky they didn't get like, more than just booed.
And then the Jets. I mean, that's a team that, you see, I'm a Dolphins fan, and we're as bad as can be. We haven't won a playoff game in 25 years.
Talk, right?
But the Jets and Giants, they just always seem to be just like in the last 10 years especially, spinning their wheels.
Well, because you got to make you got to make stone cold decisions, right? Like they kept Eli for too long. They drafted Saquon, which they shouldn't have done at the second overall pick because they wanted to help Eli out. And you dig yourself up. Mistakes aren't done in a vacuum, Frank. Mistakes happen, and it can cripple your franchise forever. And that's what's happened with the Jets. Bad decisions, bad draft picks, bad coaching decisions. We'll see if Aaron Glenn's the right guy. I'm worried. He's never been a head coach before. I would have given Mike McCarthy a shot. I'm not a huge fan, but at least he's won a Super Bowl. He's coached teams to double-digit wins. But listen, you know, as hard as it is to win at the clip Kansas City wins, it's hard to lose the way the Jets have lost. You've got to make some really dumb decisions to not win a championship in almost 60 years and not go to the playoffs since 2010. So it is pretty embarrassing how some of these franchises just can't get it right. At least the Giants have won, fairly recently.
Yeah. Now,
I think the Dolphins got screwed with the Tua concussion stuff. But damn, the Jets, man. I covered them for 16 years. And we did go to a couple of championship games in 2009, 2010 when I did the pre and post for them. But God, nothing going. 2010, one winning season since 2010. That's Browns territory, man. That's bad.
Now you have a charity game. What goes on in this charity game? And
Well, Mark Sasso is a buddy of mine. Died of stomach cancer. His widow came to me and said, "Can you put a charity game together so we could build a school, a playground at his old school." And we get tons of celebrities to come, radio, football guys. We've had Willie Colon, Greg Buttle, Marty Lyons come, Carl Banks, Brian O'Halloran. I know you're a big Jersey guy from Clerks. And we raised money. We built that. Now we've been giving it to scholarships for kids in the area from Hawthorne, where I'm from. It's over at Wag Field. You should come and play, man. I think by the time, we usually play in late August. By the time we get to August, man, I think it'll be slimmed down to about 250. I think you can patrol the outfield for us.
I might give it a try. Maybe a DH.
Well, it's softball. Just promise me you won't strike out. Because we got a guy, I'm not going to mention his name, struck out in slow pitch softball. That's not good.
Yeah, well, I could be better than Daniel Vogelback. I can promise that.
That's right. You're going to be slimmer than Daniel Vogelback, man. You keep doing this stuff.
Well, thanks. And thanks for joining us. And you know what? I'll keep an eye out. If I'm not too busy, maybe I will come by August.
I will let you know, all right?
All right,
Good,
thanks.
man. I'm so glad you're doing well, buddy.
Thanks.